Operation Gideon's Chariots through the sights of an Israeli rifle. From their tanks, the soldiers see a landscape of rubble.
From the Pope to Israel is a little bit of a whiplash, but you know, even the new Pope thinks what America's doing in Israel is totally fucked up. Of course, that doesn't mean that anyone is going to listen and change course here. Breaking. Out of 5 trucks that entered Gaza today, 2 were loaded with shrouds. White bag labels, shrouds in blue. This isn't food. It's preparation for mass death. Gaza isn't being fed. It's being buried. Ay, ay, ay.
Israel created, hiding what they see as terrorists who must be eliminated. Operation Gideon's Chariots from a tented camp that the Israelis told Gazans would be safe. But nowhere's safe in Gaza, especially now the new ground offensive has started. Today, the Israeli government told the residents of Khan Yunis to evacuate the town again, to allow a free fire zone. Such a familiar, terrible sight. The trucks and carts, the families with a few possessions and less hope. But not everything is always as it seems. Today, eyewitnesses said Israeli special forces disguised themselves as a displaced family in order to carry out an assassination. They used typical Gazan bags to carry their explosives and other equipment, all abandoned at the scene.
They also kidnapped the wife and the children of the dude that they assassinated. Yeah. It's insane.
In the morning, one of the guys in the neighborhood went up and asked them, "What are you doing?" They went inside the house, killed the man, and took away the woman and girl.
The target was Ahmed Sarhan, a commander of a militia allied with Hamas.
We heard the sound of saws cutting through the metal, and there were quadcopters outside the window that would kill anyone they saw.
Israel says the aim of its new offensive is to force Hamas to surrender the remaining 58 hostages, only 20 of whom are believed to be still alive, and to take total control of Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister was in a Tel Aviv courtroom this morning for his continuing corruption trial. He's decided that after more than 2 months of receiving no aid, the people of Gaza should be allowed just a little.
From the beginning of the war, we said that in order to complete the victory, defeat Hamas and free all our hostages, 2 tasks that are intertwined, there is one necessary condition. We must not reach a state of starvation. Both from a practical and a political point of view, we simply won't get support. We won't be able to complete the mission of victory.
So, not because it's against international law to starve civilians, not because it's inhumane, but because Israel needs US support, and the Trump administration has reportedly said that letting Gazan children die of starvation is unacceptable. Today, the first aid trucks were on the move. Israel plans to prevent the UN and other international humanitarian agencies from distributing aid, instead creating a new US-Israeli organization.
They're literally bringing in marginal aid, and the marginal aid that they're bringing in is not even enough aid, and it's not even real aid. Like they I think brought in 9 trucks when the number of trucks that they should be pushing through is more than 60. They sent in 9 aid trucks. It's horrifying.
To ensure that food and medicines will not only be lifesavers, but also instruments of control.
Lindsay Hilson there. Well, earlier I was joined by Dr. Victoria Rose, who's a British plastic surgeon currently working at the Nasser hospital in Gaza. She began by telling me that today's delivery of food aid via 9 trucks was nothing like enough.
The population.
Israel allowed less than 0.84% of the bare minimum Gaza needs on a normal day to survive, let alone after 78 days of total starvation and 590 days of genocide. This is not aid. It's a PR stunt to allow Western leaders to pretend problem is solved while the annihilation continues. 5 humanitarian aid trucks enter the Gaza Strip after inspection. And apparently, there's not even like real aid in the trucks that they're allowing in. Just to put into perspective, before the war, 500 trucks a day were needed to sustain Gaza. Today, Kojat agreed to let in 9 trucks. There are 9,000 trucks waiting outside the various crossings, not allowed to enter. Whether or not this GHF will happen, Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and I'm very skeptical. This whole thing is a cover for the annihilation of whatever's left of Khan Yunis and its surroundings. I know, 5 were allowed in. There are thousands waiting to be let in for months. It is exactly like Putin saying he wants a ceasefire with Trump in Ukraine. Yes. Except the difference here is Trump doesn't have any way of stopping Vladimir Putin, whereas Trump has every way to stop Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump, if tomorrow he got hit with like a humanity laser beam and became an empathetic person, could make one phone call and stop this. Do you understand? This is something that's very important to recognize, something that I repeat all the time. The reason why I repeat this all the time is so that people don't actually misunderstand the American government's involvement. Can he? Honest question. Yes. Yes. 1,000,000%. Yes. Just like Biden had the opportunity to put an end to this with one phone call, Trump also has an opportunity to put an end to this with one phone call. Israel would not be able to conduct this Holocaust without our steady munitions flowing into Israel. There is no world in which Israel gets to do any of this without American funds, without American weapons, and without American cover. Ironically, like we joke about him going, Vladimir, stop, which is bullshit. If he were to literally say, Benjamin, stop, he would have to stop. The reason why they're doing this like bullshit aid, the reason why they're doing this bare minimum bullshit aid is not because they want to entertain America and America's interests. It's to basically create PR around the issue so that, you know, they can silence the public opposition in the Western world. Meanwhile, the Yemeni armed forces have just announced the implementation of a naval blockade against the Haifa port, warning all shipping companies going there to turn around. Can you talk about the precedent for this, where the U.S. did something similar? Yes. The United States, under Joe Biden, actually stopped Israel from continuing in 2021. Israel bombed the Associated Press building in the Gaza Strip in 2021. Joe Biden called Benjamin Netanyahu, and all it took was one phone call. The United States is also under Reagan stopped Israel from continuing to pummel. I think it was, at that point, it was Lebanon. Yes, One phone call. Ronald Reagan literally said, what you're doing is the Holocaust. What you're doing is a Holocaust. And by the way, this is not just my assessment. Look no further than Bezalel Smotrich, who has openly admitted this reality. Okay? There's a video that I want to show you. Not just the statements, not just the written statements of Bezalel Smotrich, but a straight up video. Okay? Here it is. I tweeted about this earlier today. I said they're just flexing being able to do the Holocaust while the world watches and refuses to do anything about it. Let's start with the simplest thing. No aid is going to Hamas. Period. Anyone who says otherwise is simply lying. Okay, this is 8 minutes long. I don't want to watch the whole thing. Here. Israel's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich gave a speech Monday defending Israel's strategy of mass devastation in Gaza, saying humanitarian aid is only being allowed in so the world does not stop us and accuse us of war crimes. The goal, he insisted, is to conquer, clear, and stay until Gaza is dismantled beyond recognition. On aid, Smotrich said only the bare minimum will be allowed. A few bakeries distributing pitas, a daily portion of cooked food. Citizens in Gaza will get a pita and a plate of food, and that's it. That's exactly what we see in the videos. People standing in line, waiting for a plate of soup. The purpose, he admitted, is not relief, but optics. It allows the world to continue providing us with international protection. We are annihilating everything that remains in the Strip, he declared, simply because it is one big city of terror. He described the new military strategy as one of permanent occupation. No more raids with ins and outs. We are conquering, clearing, and staying until Hamas is destroyed. He welcomed the shift towards targeting Gaza's civil infrastructure. The IDF is finally conducting a campaign against the civilian rule of Hamas, eliminating ministers, officials, money changers, and figures in the economic and governmental apparatus. Boasting of the scale of destruction, Smotrich said, we are dismantling Gaza, leaving it in ruin, with unprecedented destruction, and the world still hasn't stopped us. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Smotrich said, we are dismantling Gaza, leaving it in ruins with unprecedented destruction, and the world still hasn't stopped us. He added that personally he would prefer a total blockade until the last of the hostages returns. We should also not let water into the Gaza Strip. Smotrich endorsed ethnic cleansing as official policy. The population will reach the south of the Strip and from there, God willing, to third countries as a part of President Trump's plan. This is akin to basically having direct access to the Nazi regime in Nazi Germany and having them enjoy and entertain like full, complete political cover from all the allied forces, like all or the rest of the planet. This is unfolding in front of our eyes. It is a live streamed Holocaust. And Israel is not oblivious to how much America is allowing this to happen, how much America is pushing for this to happen. That's it. It's fucking insane. The scale of atrocity is insane. Breaking. UK, France, and Canada, Israel cease renewed military offensive in Gaza and lift aid restrictions or face further concrete actions. We will not stand by while the Netanyahu government pursues these egregious actions. They should have said this on October 10th, by the way. The very fact that they're saying it only almost 2 years after Israel's genocide is crazy, and they're not going to do anything, I don't think. In a joint statement, they called the suffering intolerable, condemned Israeli threats of forced displacement, and slammed Israel's aid offer as wholly inadequate. You need to understand, like, these guys, they have power. They could do this. That is, of course, if they were a separate entity outside of the scope of American foreign policy. They are not, and therefore they won't do anything. They are not, these guys are vestiges of American empire. Okay? Make no mistake. They are not autonomous nations that exercise their sovereignty or people that care about the suffering of Palestine and Palestinians. They can try to entertain political pressure like this after 19 months of unlimited death and destruction. But at the end of the day, the only thing that they're accomplishing is just words. They could directly cut off access. They could literally offer sanctions to Israel. You have to understand the bizarre politics around this video. Netanyahu, Smotrich, and Katz, or the rest of them, are calling this minimal aid and declaring this as an optics move for the massive expansion of the operations. What's left out is that in this conference, Smotrich criticizes Ben-Gvir for opposing even the minimal aid in the cabinet. He basically called Ben-Gvir a right-wing LARPer. That's where we're at. Yeah, I mean, look, this is the type of stuff that this is normal. It's just normal fascist decay. Like, of course, there's going to be like a little bit of right-wing infighting, but think about how the norm, like what the normal process looks like, has shifted so dramatically. Like, what is the normal policies of the war cabinet in broad daylight now is following through on the complete ethnic cleansing and permanent occupation of the Gaza Strip. This is something that they're openly stating. Not only is it something that they're openly stating, but they're also saying that they're openly saying that they don't care about the hostages. Like, the hostages are not even a priority for them. It's simply a talking point. Smotrich's statement almost sounds like he's bewildered at how much the international community is letting Israel get away with it. Does it sound that way to you? I think there is an attitude amongst the Israeli war cabinet that was of shock, at least if you listen to some of the people that are in these rooms. Some of the people that were in these rooms were shocked at how much Biden let them get away with. They literally thought, they thought that Biden would have scaled back some of this destruction eventually, but once they realized that there is no leash and that the leash had snapped in its entirety, they just kept going. I think it's also partially what Hamas's calculation was as well. Hamas thought that the rest of the world, like global leadership, would have probably said enough is enough to the unlimited atrocities that Palestinians were being subjected to, not realizing that the well of depravity is endless. It's just so absurd that this is the debate. Minimal aid and genocide versus no aid and genocide. Yeah, that's the major point of contention inside of the war cabinet in Israel and the government. It's fantastic stuff. It is really fucking insane. It's just like, I mean, this is how you come to the recognition of how Nazi Germany took place, though. Like, this is it. Like, they didn't have as much access to the atrocities and the death and destruction of Nazi Germany's like most violent ambitions, the ethnic cleansing of 6 million Jews and some total of like 15 million people overall. People didn't know the full scale of the atrocities. There were suspicions, there was surveillance, but there wasn't like complete confirmation in the way that you can see it in real time in Gaza, right? And even this makes me feel like even if there was complete confirmation of the Holocaust at the time while it was happening, I suspect people still wouldn't give a shit. Because like a lot of people misunderstand the history of World War II, like where people think that like America joined because they wanted to liberate the camps or something. Like that wasn't the reason, right? Like that wasn't the reason at all. Only until virtually after the fact were people aware of the scale of the atrocities. So who still thinks that? I don't know. I mean, I think like a lot of Americans misunderstand the history of World War II due to like a shit ton of American propaganda. I'm talking not about like Alan Dulles chatters. I'm talking about, yeah, Pilecki literally snuck into Auschwitz, sent the Brits a report, and it was just shoved into a drawer. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like there was some information coming out of the camps at the time that Allied forces were privy to, but there's a difference between full-scale confirmation from every single person. Like right now, in this day and age, with the information, with the access to information that we have, the unprecedented amount of access that we have to information in real time over the internet, you literally have direct real-time confirmation of the events that are unfolding, the scale of the atrocities, right? It's not even comparable. It's not comparable to the broader public's understanding of what the fuck was going on inside of these concentration camps. This isn't to like offer plausible deniability to like everyday Germans and all these people that were complicit, right, in the death and destruction that lived around these fucking concentration camps, these death camps, and just like never understood why it was so ashy all the fucking time. You know, that's not what I'm saying at all. But it's like if you were interested in understanding how. If you were interested in understanding how, like, something as violent and as ruthless, like the scale of atrocity and the mechanization of death that the Nazis put together could ever happen, with decent public support for at least like the deportation policies, like the disappearance policies that were implemented in broad daylight and legalized in the aftermath of the race laws. If you're wondering how, like, so many people can sign off on this, look no further than what people are seeing right now. Look no further than what people are experiencing right now. There is another Holocaust taking place in front of our eyes. And people look at that and either go, what are you going to do? Or people look at that and go, no, it's actually good and more of it should happen. I didn't understand anything till I watched him alone, and thank God you and Chad and Hasan informing us people were ignorant. I don't understand how anyone can disagree with them and I feel betrayed by everyone. If you follow everything, they don't care. They just want to get rid of them. So this all goes. It's insane. People go, well, Palestine just needs to go away and then this will all be solved. People literally say that, and I didn't realize that. And I'm so sorry to everyone who cares about this. I know I'm a nobody, but Jesus, I'm new to Twitch. I literally just got back to tell Hasan I'm sorry I didn't believe him and that I believed H3. I don't know how to read people replying to me, but I just want to see how sorry I am. I believe in Ethan and not Hasan. Yeah, I mean, this is why I was actively talking about like the propaganda, the sinister propaganda that Ethan applies in this process, where his hyper focus on Hamas, his hyper focus on the Houthis, his hyper focus on Hezbollah, without actually offering any sort of historical framework in which why these groups exist and how they formed and what their methods were initially and what their methods look like now. If you only talk about the animal barbaric nature of like militant resistance against the state of Israel, instead of talking about all of the atrocities, the scale of atrocities, the mechanization of death in this live streamed Holocaust that Israel is conducting, then yeah, this framework will lead you astray. It is a very sinister way for someone who claims to be a stalwart ally of the Palestinian plight to turn around and basically delude his audience this way. I feel so bad I was stupid. I mean, there's no reason to feel bad. It's just it's okay that you at least took a step in the right direction, in the direction of learning the truth. It applied a little bit of scrutiny to the sources that you trusted for so long. This is why I do what I do. You have been misguided, and this is part of the reason why I try to shake people from this stupor a little bit. There are far more people who don't recognize this and actually feel galvanized and confident in their position of not knowing, thinking that what I'm doing is actually harmful, what I'm doing is actually wrong, what I'm doing is actually misinforming people. Like think about all those other people in the H3 podcast community that still think that they're like advocating for Palestinians, but in the right way. Meanwhile, all those people give a fuck about is like drama.
Here are really in need of food. I've never seen them in such a bad condition. The children are cachectic. They are all smaller than they should be for their age. They are underweight. They are showing signs of malnutrition. Their dentition is terrible, which is the first marker of inadequate nutrients and vitamins.
You think Ethan would change his position if he actually did the research and see the videos online? I don't give a fuck about Ethan changing his position at this point. And no, the answer is fucking no. No, he's too dug in and too narcissistic to even care. Obviously, when you match up the scale of atrocities with what his hyper focus has been for the past 19 months, you come to a very scary conclusion that this person that you're watching for goofs and gaffes is truly a repulsive monster. Okay? That's it. Like when you look at all of this that's going on, you think it's a lack of knowledge. It's because he's like totally oblivious to the scale of atrocities. I mean, he calls it a genocide. He says that like West Bank settlers are valid military targets. Like that's what he has said. But then he changes his position over and over again. The reason for why he does that is because he doesn't give a fuck about the Holocaust that is taking place. He cares about getting everyone to shut the fuck up and shut the fuck up about Israel and the feelings of Israelis and the feelings of Ethan Klein, a Jewish American living in the lap of luxury in Bel Air. That is the number one point of contention here. Like that's what you should care about. Me. My own personal feelings here. It's disgusting. It's completely disgusting.
And they are just not healing any of the horrific wounds that they have. And coupled with that, we have the added problems of the susceptibility to infection, which is rife out here because we have very few antibiotics to fight it.
It seems a naive question, perhaps, but just explain a little bit more. How does low-level nutrition, malnutrition, I think we're talking, impact on a patient, particularly a young patient's ability to recover, to stave off infection?
Without a balance.
Like, look, there's still people doing this. Just say you support terrorist organizations already. The Palestinian people are victims, but these organizations are 100% terrorist organizations. What you are doing is absolutely harmful. Your voice carries weight. And when you support these groups while enjoying the freedoms given to you by America, to which you seemingly hate, it becomes confusing. Surprise Twitch hasn't banned you. Yeah. You will forever be surprised by basic things. Okay? Do you think this doctor is talking about Hamas when she talks about the mass starvation campaign that Israel has implemented by way of a blockade, an unjustifiable blockade upon the Palestinian population? No, she's talking about Israel, dumb fuck. The terrorism here is Israel. The terrorist state is Israel. It is incalculable in comparison to October 7. Okay? Meanwhile, you talk about the liberties that America gives me like the First Amendment, that offers me the protection from government scrutiny while demanding that the American government take that away. You are the one who fucking hates America. Okay? You hate America. You at least hate, like, you hate the First Amendment. Seemingly. Like, if your assessment of what makes a group a terrorist group, if your assessment is like targeting civilians, if that's your marker for what is a terrorism, what's an act of terrorism, or what declares someone a terrorist organization, then what the fuck is Israel? What is America? But especially Israel. There needs to be a new term for it. A super terrorist. Again and again and again. When I'm talking about this stuff, the only thing that these people can grab onto is this fucking notion that, like, the American state's terrorism designation is not one that has a practical application of denying people habeas corpus and to stop people from even speaking out against these atrocities, and to basically declare anyone who resists against the Nazi state of Israel as bad people across the board, bad guys. You shouldn't talk about them. If you talk about them in any way, shape, or form that offers a more human-focused perspective to why people resist against Israel's actions amidst a fucking genocide where 2 million people are being forcibly starved, which, by the way, the majority of the 2 million people are also under the age of 18. They're children, okay? If the only thing you can do is just go, well, the government says that these guys are terrorists, so you can't even actually speak on why they're doing certain things, because then you're a bad guy and you should stop talking, okay? Then you're a fucking baboon.
Diet, not only will you be unable to heal any wounds, but you won't have the reserves for growth. And that's what we've seen immediately we got here last year, was that the children here are much smaller than their Western counterparts in height, in weight. It's really very obvious. Children that you would think would be 7 years old actually turned out to be 12, 11. I've never seen it this bad in my life. We are going through a dire situation at the moment. Not only have we had 75 days or 76 days of no food, but we haven't had any medical aid either. And where we are in Khan Yunis, we're one of 2 hospitals. We're the biggest of 2 hospitals in the region, and we're just about to face evacuation.
Evacuation to where? You're a hospital.
We don't know yet. We're right on the border of the active fighting zone. So Israel sent some flyers, or they update their website to show you where the active fighting zone is. And at the moment, we look to be about 1.5.
I've heard the argument that Israel would just turn to other countries if America stopped supporting them, essentially claiming that they would be less efficient, but it wouldn't stop the genocide. Is that true at all? Or is that simply an attempt to portray America's involvement as minimal? Yes. That only comes from dumb fucks who don't know how much America supports Israel. Okay? Are you kidding me? If the United States of America said tomorrow, hey, you're done, and Israel refused to cooperate, there are many tools in America's tool belt to destroy Israel's ambitions here. Okay? First and foremost, without America's munitions or without America's central command in the region, Israel is not able to defend itself. Okay? So even if there was a denial of weapons transfers into Israel, that would already put a immediate logistical hurdle in their genocidal ambitions. That's number one. And let's say Israel tries to still continue doing this by rerouting the metric ton of munitions that they're getting from America from, like, let's say Russia or China, which is less likely to begin with, given that Russia already has its own permanent occupation of Ukraine to worry about. But let's say Israel is getting weapons from Russia tomorrow. America would then turn around and say, we're putting sanctions on Israel for continuing this genocide. And if Israel still continued to say no, then America would fucking invade Israel with the entire brunt of the NATO forces. This is what would happen under normal circumstances. It would never even get to that point, however, because one phone call is all it fucking takes. Because Israel is America's puppet. Israel is the weapon that America wields in the region. That's it. Oh, you like NATO now? No, the reason why I don't like NATO is because NATO is obviously a dishonest fucking grouping that is an extortion racket, a protection racket created by the United States of America. Because if NATO was actually the true police of the world, they would have fucking invaded Tel Aviv by now. What the fuck are you talking about? NATO forces bombed Serbia for much less than what Israel has done over the course of the past 19 months. Don't you think that's odd? That's on fucking European soil, as a matter of fact. How the fuck did that happen? They were killing Muslims too. They were ethnically cleansing Muslims. Meanwhile, what are the coalition forces busy with? They're busy with the only country in the region that is actively trying to issue penalties to Israel for its fucking 19-month-long genocide and starvation campaign. That's right, it's Yemen. Yemen is the country that they're fucking bombing. Well, they stopped bombing Yemen now because they set up a side deal with Ansar Allah to say, hey, you're smoking too many of our fucking Reaper drones. And also, we've dropped too many of our F-18s in the process of trying to stop you from implementing a blockade on the Red Sea, which is the moral thing to do in this process. So please stop actually destroying our military equipment, and we'll let you do whatever the fuck you want to Israel, basically, in the process. And people want you to think that the only fucking state actor in the region that is actually trying to do anything against Israel is the bad guys. Okay? They are the bad guys, not Israel. It's a very weird, very cynical, very sinister way of trying to shelter you from the fucking truth. You say, Israel's bad. Okay, well, but who's worse? The Houthis. You know who's worse? Hamas. These groups are incalculable in the harm that they've done to their own domestic population or to any other population, as a matter of fact. Even Hezbollah, when you factor in its militant actions in Syria, is incalculable to the fucking harm that Israel has caused in the region. It's not even a comparison. There is no comparison whatsoever. It's completely fucking ridiculous. It's not comparable. And the easiest way to understand it is the famous words of Michael Jamal Brooks, which is, if roles were reversed, and it was a Muslim nation that had partitioned Jews living in this area and relegated them to an open-air prison that it routinely bombed and killed hundreds of thousands of Jews inside of its open-air prison, the world would have already fucking destroyed said Muslim nation. They would have nuked them. They would have fucking nuked them instantly. It's not even comparable. Like, it's just so ridiculous. They would be celebrating the Jewish resistance forces as fucking heroes for conducting October 7 in that process. They would be like, oh my God, these guys, I wanna hug and kiss them. That's what the fucking Western world would say in that process. If Israel was a Muslim nation that was doing this to an indigenous Jewish population, the world would have taken military action a much longer time ago, okay? People forget, like, the reason why the methods have become more violent in terms of the resistance forces against the state of Israel is because the apartheid in South Africa dissolved by 1994. Israel's apartheid, on the other hand, from its inception of the nation state, has gone on. It continued. And in the process, any kind of military aid that the resistance groups could get, and any kind of global pressure that they could have possibly gotten from the USSR, for example, it perished. It went away. There's nothing. It's just America is the hegemonic power. So, of course, America's weapon in the region is going to do whatever the fuck it wants because there's no one to stop them.
5 kilometers away from the red zone. And if that advances, we will get an evacuation order.
We know Israel has been blockading food aid for a substantial amount of time, but I believe it's your experience that they are now actively preventing.
Hard disagree. The world you're describing is one without an Israel, so imperialists would have no reason to co-opt the rejection of anti-Semitism. Wait, what? Imperialists would have no reason to co-opt the rejection of anti-Semitism. You think Israel is holding the world from leaning into their anti-Semitic tendencies? Like, what are you, fucking stupid? What the hell are you talking about? You just took the long way home to basically say the thing that everyone says all the time, the common Zionist point, which is without Israel, everyone will be anti-Semitic, not realizing that Israel is the major reason for anti-Semitism skyrocketing right now, because every single violent act that Israel takes, it selfishly presents as doing it for Jews, to protect Judaism, to protect Jews. It's so fucking crazy. Wake up. It's so dumb. It's so dumb to just like constantly say like, no, you don't understand. After all of this, like without Israel, anti-Semitism was skyrocketing. Okay, well, is anti-Semitism skyrocketing right now? Israel exists and anti-Semitism is fucking skyrocketing, right? Is it not? Perhaps those two things are actually related, but not in the way that you think.
Medical personnel, such as yourself and your colleagues, from coming and getting back into Gaza?
There's been a reduction in the number of emergency medical personnel that are allowed in since the ceasefire.
You always say that the oppressed don't turn around and become the oppressor. I'm wondering why this is an example of the oppressed doing that. Am I missing a piece? Yes, the piece you're missing is that Israel didn't turn around and do this to the fucking Germans, okay? Israel was not crafted out of the existing German nation state with all of the concentration camp survivors, with all the Holocaust survivors going into Germany and then deciding to do the reverse Holocaust to Germans. They went, even before the Holocaust, there was a ambition by the British government to create a settler colony. That's the inception of Israel as a nation state, and it started before the Holocaust. And the aftermath of the Holocaust, all of the displaced victims of the Holocaust were sent to Israel, and the death and destruction that befall the Palestinian population was not done as revenge for the Holocaust. The Palestinians didn't do the Holocaust. So no, that is not a great example of the oppressed turning around and doing righteous vindication and righteous violence or righteous vengeance against those who oppress them. It's a completely fucking removed third party that they're destroying in that process.
So initially, when the first ceasefire was announced, the WHO and the United Nations announced that it would double the number of aid workers getting in. It has 2 convoys a week, one on a Tuesday and one on a Thursday. And from that point on, Israel have denied 50% of all aid workers entry.
They're attacking hospitals, they insist, because they are being used in some way by Hamas. Have you ever yourself seen any evidence of that?
There's no indication of any organized resistance in the hospital. So unless they are, undercover and we have no idea who they are, we haven't seen them.
What do you, as a trauma surgeon, as a reconstructive surgeon, right now, tonight, desperately need?
I need aid. I need medical aid, and we need food into Gaza. This is the worst situation it's ever been. We are losing children left, right, and centre from avoidable deaths. I lost a 4-year-old 2 nights ago from an overwhelming sepsis that in the UK would not have happened because I would have had the facilities to run basic tests. I don't have any of that. Our blood bank is absolutely destroyed. These are all things that could be treated. We need the aid. It's a humanitarian issue, and we need to give these people food and medical aid.
Victoria, thanks very much indeed for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.